I'm Bruce Hensel, sometimes referred to as Dr. Bruce Hensel, because I'm a physician and journalist, as well as the executive producer and co-director of the movie Beyond the Opposite Sex. This movie is about Jamie and Renee. It is about their stories. Any good filmmaker understands that movies about social issues are interesting, but they end up being news magazines. A great movie must be about people's journeys. So more than anything else, this movie is about Jamie and Renee. However, when I went to Showtime with the idea, originally 14 years ago, I did separate movies about Jamie and Renee, where we followed them from early in their decision process until they had the surgeries. And we felt we broke ground with that because nobody had shown the surgeries before. However, I stayed in touch with both of them and discovered their journeys had taken many turns. So when I went to Showtime, this movie is about four main characters: Jamie, Renee, the now versus 14 years ago when they had their surgeries, and middle redneck America. Many Trump voters, many very strongly opinionated people, different from the East and West coasts of America, New York and Los Angeles, which are very liberal. So it strikes many people that it's strange, but this happens to be where they live. And what might also strike people as strange is that at least a year ago, they both said they voted for Trump, and because of all the news about Trump. But the thing that Trump appealed to Americans about, and the middle America, is that he came across as strong-willed, rah-rah America. America had been embarrassed and uncomfortable about its own image for many years. I think that appealed to many people. So yes, many people in middle redneck America did vote for Trump. That may surprise some people in Europe and Asia, but it's a fact, and it is something that quite a few people have asked me about. The moment when Maddie at the University of Louisville Transgender Studies asks Jamie about intersectionality is a crucial moment, because there is a division within the LGBTQI community about being advocates or not. And the concept of intersectionality is that you might have somebody who is transgender, African American or Black, female, gay, and somebody who can speak to the movement. But Jamie and Renee both came out, if you will, not a term they would like, but 15, 20 years ago, it was very different. So as I said, the then versus now was very crucial. And within the community in America, there are advocates that feel people who have gone through what is now called gender affirmation surgery, no longer transgender surgery, should be seen as woman and man and not as transgenders. Some other young people feel that if you don't come out as transgenders and fight for the movement, people will not accept it. So there is a division, and Jamie's reaction was, "I have no idea what you're talking about," which is the only moment that elicits a laugh in some movie theaters. And we actually thought about, should we leave that in? Should we leave Trump in when we were editing? And both of them show a poignant part of people's lives. So we think the whole concept of intersectionality comes from people within the community who feel they must be advocates. And both Jamie and Renee, being older and having come out at a different time, feel they just want to live their lives. And Jamie often says transitioning is a verb. It's not a state of being. And once I've transitioned, I'm a woman now. So when you're making a movie, you need to think about, what do you include? You know that you're going to include their lives and their stories and the people in their lives. But we also brought in the teen transgender group, who nobody would have seen that 15 years ago in Renee's story. And in Jamie's story, we brought a militant feeling feminist who questioned about who she was. And you know, you decide whether you're going to include those. You try to include as many points of view as possible. And as I said, the then versus now is a big part of the movie, as well as middle America. Everybody has a point of view, and Patty, who has her own life and what she came to and why she believes what she does is her own business. But the point is to show both. And the interesting thing is Renee is the strong, angry, somewhat arrogant individual, and that's the way he's protected himself. Jamie is much more settled within herself. And the way I cast this movie was, as a journalist and physician 15 years ago, I called all the surgeons who do these surgeries, and I actually looked for people who would be open. We got many letters, tapes, and we decided that way. Then I stayed in touch with them. Again, different journeys, a great deal of loss. Most people who go through this are looking forward to the surgery, if they choose to have surgery, as an end point. That's really only the beginning point. We felt we broke ground with the first films by showing the surgery. With this film, by showing, well, what really happens? It's not about celebrities. What happens? Do they regret it? What happens later on? Renee lost his wife, who wanted to have children. Jamie left his then wife and child, went out and had sex with men for 10 years before she settled into a relationship with a woman. And I think it's very important what another individual, Aaron, says in the movie: sex is who you want to have sex with. Gender is who you want to have sex as. Those are different things. It's much easier to make a vagina than it is to make a penis. So many, and I don't have the exact numbers, people who are going from biologically, physically, male to female choose the surgery. But many who are going from female to male don't choose the surgery, just stay with hormones. And that's, as you can see from Renee's penis, it is very difficult. Being a physician as well as a journalist and a filmmaker, I had a little leg up because we are all female in our mother's womb until 3 months of age. We all have vaginas and clitorises, and then if testosterone shows up in the blood, it changes. If it does not, it stays that way. There are many aspects to how you feel inside: chemical, genetic, emotional, social, and we still have not gotten to the point. You see Renee's result, and he's still not happy with it. He's had 9 surgeries. So it is a fact that it is more difficult to go physically from female to male than male to female. And some people make the decision not to have the surgery. Yes, it's true. I think that anybody who thinks that a film or a science test has no agenda is foolish, because all things have agenda. Some are obvious and blatant. If you watch a Michael Moore documentary, you see he's presenting not all points of view, but his own. And even in a documentary, Jamie and Renee were willing to be in this movie, so there has to be some level of desire to please the filmmakers. And the thing that interests many people ask me, I don't get it. You're a physician and scientist, but you were an actor and producer and writer before you went to medical school. I don't see how the two things are similar. Well, when you compare them to law, for instance, law is necessarily arbitrary. Truth depends on state, county, and judge, necessarily. Well, if somebody comes to me with a blood test that's bad, I don't want to see that and ignore it. And a good actor, a good producer is about being authentic, meaning real. Even a newscaster, I thought after being an actor, I'd be a great newscaster. It took time to be able to look at the camera and be authentic. I think being yourself and being authentic, and yes, in science and in film, you can change the sequence, but it still comes down to a truth that doesn't exist in law or in courts. Many lawyers and judges would like to believe that that is the goal, but it's not as malleable, it's not as flexible as it is. I think true art requires finding the truth. I should have said even better than that. It's outside yourself. It's not something you can change. So the truth about their surgeries is the truth. How they feel and how it is presented, of course, is malleable. In the early 1970s, in what is called the Diagnostic Standard Manual for Psychiatrists, homosexuality was considered an illness. Thank goodness that is no longer the case. Whether lesbian, gay, transgender, QI, there's a wide spectrum. There are many healthy heterosexuals and many crazy heterosexuals. That is true in the transgender, gay, and lesbian communities as well. So in that spectrum, some people are very naturally what would be called alpha males. If you watch Renee, even though he was born biologically a female, he is very strongly alpha male. Jamie has a giant pot belly and looks more like a man than some other transgenders. And sort of funny little poignant comment that Lisa makes, she didn't have a manual, and I don't think that was meant to be a play on words, of how to be a woman. So I think the point that comes out of this is that when people are going to go through gender reassignment, they need coaching and help and emotional support because there's more to it than just the physical. And I don't know that it's really a question of learning to be a certain way, because even among heterosexuals, some heterosexuals are very feminine and some are men, very masculine. So I think coaching and help and talking to other people who have gone through it is the best way. But there is no manual, because there's not one way to be. Did I answer? I think if somebody wrote a book, How to Be a Man, How to Be a Woman, a lot of people would react very badly to it, because I think there's a wide spectrum of how to be, and people who are very strongly themselves want to be who they are. Renee sees himself as a strong heterosexual alpha male, if you will. Jamie is not as strong, but everybody has their own defenses. That's the way Renee protected himself. Jamie just feels that who she is strong enough. And when you see her being interviewed by the radical feminist cannot shake her because she's strong about who she is. So I know no books that teach you how to do that, and I think if there are, some people would not want to read them. It's very individual.